unfortunately, the majority of people have disconnected from their feelings. They don't really know how they feel about anything. And all this Aries energy is going to burn away what we don't need anymore, and it's going to light up passion. It's going to burn away landscapes that are no longer valid for you, and whether that's relationships or jobs or anything, so that you can rise.
Hi, I'm Caroline Cary and welcome to the Eat Nourish Love podcast. For over 20 years, I've created events, raised over 4 million for good causes, and been lucky enough to meet some incredible people along the way. This podcast is about exploring stories and insights that really shape us, with inspiring guests from wellness, business, self-care and personal growth. It's about learning to trust our intuition and discovering what truly matters, and how, with hard work, belief and tenacity, we can make so many things happen. Hi everybody, welcome to the Eat Nourish Love podcast. I'm so delighted to welcome today a very, very special person, not only in terms of what she does and her work, but also because she is a great friend of mine, and I've worked and seen how she's evolved over the years for so long. And I've never forgotten, our children were at school together, I've never forgotten listening to some of the tragedy that she's had in her life and where she's come to with what she's done with her spiritual healing and learning. And also, I think you will explain that you're also part of that, the founder, I'm not sure whether you are still, but the one where those two lovely guys had that terrible accident as well. So, you know, you've been involved in extraordinary spaces. But I think the world is in a very funny place. Everyone's putting everything all over Instagram about the Chinese New Year and the snake and shedding and then the fire horse. And I thought, let's bring a bit of clarity to it with you. Welcome, Nikki Leader.
Thank you, my friend. What a lovely introduction. Yeah, it's so lovely to have that connection. And yes, I remember one of the first early Christmas fairs that I came to. I brought some aura sprays, and it was, yes, quite a few years ago. And I don't know whether you remember it. And I left having sold one bottle, and I think it must have been that, you know, early in the 2000 and teens or something. And I sold one bottle and I left, and I went back to this girlfriend who channeled the whole recipe, everything, the most incredible brand. And I said, they're not ready. Nobody's ready yet. And it was so interesting. Anyway, on the back of that, I found other beautiful things from that fair because I worked with somebody and that sort of thing. But there is absolutely no doubt what we're going to talk about today with the astrology, which is quite a good platform to base some explanation and perhaps some support and help for people to understand. Because for me, if I understand something, and we're human, you know, we want to understand something, and then we feel calmer about it and we feel more peaceful and everything else. So that was really what I wanted to bring today. Was I'm going to glisten over a lot of astrology, but then people can dive into whatever they want to go deeper into it if that feels right for them. So I'm not going to go deep into astrology.
So what I'd like, yes, because I think it's really important to understand the difference, because, you know, people don't, well, I mean, a lot of people don't, even I don't sometimes understand the difference between astrology and spiritual healing and tarot readings and everything else. So I think bringing clarity to that would be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they are inextricably linked because everything I do works with energy. And ultimately, we are multidimensional, which might feel a bit woo-woo for some people, but we are light beings. We are energy. And we come from light and we return to light. And I remember you asking me the question of why was my word light for this year? Because I always choose a word at the beginning of the year and I want to embody that sort of energy. And one of the reasons I chose light was because I want to absorb more light. I want to be more light. I want to radiate more light. And I feel that if everybody takes a little bit more light on board this year, because it was a tricky year last year, and if everybody just finds a little bit of what lights them up this year, that's how we change. That's how we evolve. That's how we change the way we live and create a world that perhaps more of us want to live in.
And I suppose that's also, if you if you're attuned to something and you say, I want more light, and you are focusing on that and the energy is going that way, then that's half of it, isn't it? It's the energetic space understanding. Then you look.
It is. And light is different for everybody. You know, what lights me up is not going to light you up. You know, what food lights me up, what creativity lights me up, what nature, what some things in nature. So it's such an individual journey. And the fascinating thing about this year is having a lot of shedding for a lot of people last year. What this year is all about is self-mastery, it's self-awareness, it's the stepping much more into our self-identity and clearing out the noise that is going on. So astrology, in my world, is a huge part of that. I don't think I could do the work that I do in the way that I do it without some sort of astrological understanding, because it gives me so much information about where somebody's at, about, because they might have transits going on. And there are some very simple transit that everybody has at certain ages. And as a therapist, practitioner, a friend, a mother, a father, if you understand that, you can really support somebody or allow them to go through what they need to go through.
So talk to us what's happening in the world at the moment, because there's so much going on. I mean, you can just feel it, the energy. It's not just AI. There's just so much going on as well. And I think people have hooked onto this whole idea, particularly with this, because as I say, it's everywhere. If you are on Instagram, maybe it's just my algorithms that keep showing up to me. Yeah. It's my energetic space. That, the snake, and people go, oh, February, is it 15th, 17th? Oh my goodness, that's the year of the fire horse. Everything's going to be fine. So just talk to us about the whole concept.
No. Absolutely not. Let's start right at the beginning. And actually, I don't do fine. And I was having a conversation yesterday. It's so funny you should say that, because, what was it? She gave me an explanation. I can't remember. It might come to me later. So what is going on in the world is I'm going to approach this through a lens of astrology. So the influences from the skies. And if you trust and understand that we are 80% water, the moon influences all tides. So we are going to be influenced by the moon. It's no secret that A&E is rammed at a full moon. And it's a lunar cycle. And this lovely word lunacy, that's where the word lunacy came from, because everybody goes slightly mad. A lot of people don't sleep. Things are culminating in these, cycles between the full moon and the new moon. But on a bigger scale, what's happening? Let's go to the much bigger picture, and then we can zoom in. So the bigger picture is humanity. There are 2,000-year cycles, 2,160 to be precise, but 2,000-year cycles, and they are known as precessional cycles, and they are linked with astrology signs. And so the qualities of that astrology sign are going to affect society, collective, and therefore individual behavior. And you can take whichever comes first with your understanding. So let's look at, for instance, the age of Taurus. The age of Taurus was all about grounding and earth and survival and fertility and the goddess energy. Then we move towards Aries, so it reverses. We moved into Aries, which was masculine energy. It was about war. It was conquering. It was the warrior hero energy. And if you look back in history, it is absolutely encapsulated in human behavior. I mean, it's incredible. So where we're emerging from is known as the age of Pisces. Now, there's all sorts of trains of thought as to when that happens. It's not a day. It's not a moment. And really, we've been emerging from that. I don't know whether anybody remembers, but in 2012, the Mayans said that their calendar would very much shift. It would be the end of an age. And I'm putting this in very simple terms because I don't want to lose people, because it is really, really important. And it was about top-down control, masculinity. It's when, the church became the answer, to everything, religion. It was, Pisces is the two fish. It's very Christian. It's very religious, but it's also very much about, if I own something, that makes me feel safe. So the security became material things. And what we're moving to and emerging, remember, it's masculine energy. because what has been happening, I feel, for probably 20, 30 years, is this very slow emergence of feminine energy. We've seen women in higher positions now, whereas before there were absolutely none. Very, very clear. And that started really to emerge. I noticed it. And I think this is about noticing in the 80s, really. And then, gay people were able to be much more public about their sexuality. And that means more feminine energy within somebody who presents as a male. So you can see when you reflect back on this emerging of this feminine energy, and that's the age of Aquarius, which is what everybody's talking about, which is what this shift, in quotes, is. And so if we move ourselves from this separateness of Pisces into this beautiful community that Aquarius is going to invite us to return back to community, to return back to equality. And that's why everything that has been built in the age of Pisces needs to come crashing down, because we cannot rebuild from old foundations. So everything, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And I love that about this Aries energy. So we're having astrology in February that has never, ever happened in humanity, ever, because it's never been at 0 degrees, where these planets are, everything is about new beginnings. And Aries, is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the initiator, but it's the baby of the zodiac. It's the very, very beginning. And that is where we're at. So if you merge that with the year of the snake, which has helped us in its way, I lived in Asia for many, many years, and Chinese New Year is so much more. I drove past a pub in Sussex the other day and it said, let's gallop into 2026. And I'm thinking, what is going on?
Yeah.
This is absolutely incredible in a lovely way. But also, do we really know what this is about? Because, this is based on thousands of years of beliefs and rituals. And, when in Hong Kong, everybody stopped work. And it was very much that the Chinese New Year was very much about renewal. It was about family unity. It was about the hope of prosperity. I'm not necessarily seeing that in all the noise on Instagram. I feel that perhaps people are searching for something and they want it to be this galloping new movement because they're so fed up with last year. But it isn't going to be about that. It is in many ways because there's so much fire. But fire can also burn.
One word I always think about is hope. People like seeing something where there's a positive, where they're struggling with things and suddenly they're going, oh my goodness, it's okay. So there's a positive hope, which I think is great, because I think if it's doing that for people and giving people the encouragement to feel good, that's great. But it's when it's taken out of context, isn't it? That's when it all gets a bit crazy. But I know, it's been a tough old time, and lots of things have come crashing down. But Nikki, everything's coming crashing down, isn't it? Everything.
Yeah, and it's meant to. It's meant to. For me, I feel it's absolutely. I've been talking about this. I did a talk in 2012 called "Wake Up, the World is Changing," and it was a talk about the astrological ages to help people understand that this is just movement. It's not chaos. It's about reconnection to something. And humans really fear change. And, ritual without any sort of relationship connected to it just becomes noise. And interestingly, that's kind of what you were talking about. This is why we had that conversation. You were talking a lot about there's so much noise on Instagram. And the reason I feel for that is because there is disconnection to the ancient ritual of what that actually means. And, astrology, oh, I don't believe in astrology. Oh, it's a load of rubbish. And that's absolutely fine. And it may well be to some people. But if you choose to notice things, notice yourself at a full moon, notice. And for me, this new age is going to be so much more about noticing, because that's feminine energy. And Aquarius is feminine energy, and it's going to invite everybody who is way too much in their doing world, which is masculine energy, particularly those who present as women. We've become very used to, as a mother, you're doing the whole time. So at what point do you honor the cycle? And astrology is all about cycles. And if there was one word I would, I guess, describe this new energy that we're all tapping into now, it's alignment. What are you going to align yourself to? Are you going to align yourself to the shadow side of Aries, which is warrior, it's war? And we are going to see that. It's not going to be pretty, because as things come crashing down, those particularly masculine, who are really in their masculine, who are linked with that old paradigm of Piscean, I must control and therefore I'm bigger, I'm more important, I get more money, I am on, I can control you. No, that's going now. That is absolutely going. And it's right that it should go. But for everybody else who has maybe handed their power over to that, now this is about reclaiming some of that power. But it's not reclaiming I am powerful over you.
Okay, well, what does that look like for people listening to this? What does that look like, in terms of their day to day and how they're thinking and how they're being?
So a big part of that day to day is going to be trust. Trust yourself. Do you trust yourself to make choices that are aligned with actually what you're really, really feeling? So Pisces was very much energy in the head. Aquarius is dropping down into the heart. And for many, many people, that heart has been closed and blocked off for a long, long time, because everybody's gone along with other people's idea of what they should or would or could have be doing. So if I align that to astrology, just reflect back on last year and the Chinese New Year of the Snake. Why was that difficult? And these are questions that people can listen to on the podcast and then go and reflect on. Why was last year so difficult? And I'm going to leave a gap there, because when you answer that intuitively, part of that is because you were disconnected from trusting yourself to make the choices that suited you. So either you had realized some behavioral patterns that you've been hanging on to for eons, and some people find that very shaming, the fact that they've been living a certain way and actually that's not who they are. It's not how they want to be at all. So reflect back on, let's look at the shifts that have happened. So we know that last year was the year of the snake, and generally the qualities of the snake is very much grounding the skins that need to come off. Now, when you shed a skin, if you have a wound, that skin is very fragile. So have you paused enough to say, okay, I am revealing much more of myself now. There's an inner child within me who needs tendering. Now, the astrology of what's happening is really going to support you in that. So start off by paying attention. Pay attention to, in winter, did you rest? Did you go within? Did you connect with your internal world? And as spring comes, so it's much more about noticing the environment that you live in that has every single thing that can support you. Nature can support you in every single way. The other thing I would ask perhaps is, how do you reset your nervous system? Do you have tools to do that? Because again, when things happen, and a lot of trauma happened last year, and some astrologers would say that actually what we're really healing on a collective major, major scale is the age of Aries, which is about warrior and anger and, I must do this and I've got to fight my way through life. And it's very interesting. All my clients are still connected to that part. And in my world, everything that happens is a reset. It can be horrendous, but it's going to reset you. It will transform the way you live. It will transform. And unfortunately, in many ways, the more it hurts, the more deeply transforming it is.
It's probably because you sometimes you don't listen. I had something that's happened, and it's almost I felt it. I knew I had to move away from it, and then suddenly the universe gave me a big slap and said, "You didn't hear us. Now you need to move on." And it's really interesting.
Now it happens again, and it will happen again, and it will happen again until we notice and we become aware of what is actually happening. And I always think, I go back to, when we're born, who hands you the ticket that says your life is going to be free of suffering? Nobody, of course. And so I feel that if we can find the light in that, because there is always a silver lining in the darkest, darkest moments. My as you called it, tragedy. But actually, I in the some of the readings that I do, which are very linked to your soul plan, 100%, I own every single thing that happens and will happen to me, because it doesn't happen to me, it happens through me. So I let go of that feeling that life happens to me. And if you really embody that, it takes away any blame. It's nobody else's fault. You own it, you take responsibility for it. Now you're stepping into self-mastery.
And it's a very soft way. And Mel Robbins always talks about, no one's coming, let them, etc. And I love her, etc. But what you're explaining here is the fact that is actually, you have to lean into things, come through you. You have to understand it. You understand what you're. I was reading something the other day. It was about someone who'd given up drinking, but guess what? The next thing was there was another thing that she had to overcome, because she wasn't addressing what the problem was, because she was finding something to put a sticky plaster over that wound, and she had actually had to go within and understand what it was.
Yeah, and you need to go into the energy of things. I'm a great supporter of talking therapy, but I also feel that we're moving way beyond that now, because the human brain will only hold on to and absorb what it is limited by. And if energy, which is why I use sound now I do big sound events for animals and people, and sound, it takes you to a place that you cannot take yourself, because it's frequency, and pure frequency will match pure frequency.
What sound do you use?
So when you
what sound?
So I do sound bowl. I do sound healing with my voice, with chimes, with bowls, and sound now is a massive evolving modality, really, for healing. And I'm a big fan of it, as are animals. I think we're going to see, I'm really interested to see the rise of horse healing in this year, to see what happens, because I used to teach that. And when you watch a horse receive healing, the physical manifestations where they yawn and they stretch their mouth and their skin shakes and all that kind of stuff is utterly magical. You don't see that on a person so much. So I feel that this connection to nature and how it can lead us back to ourselves is going to be huge. And following the cycles, time is a man-made concept. So which is why perhaps you can now start focusing, when does it feel right to do it? Not what time it is or what date. Obviously, we still have those structures. But we are going to drop down so much into feeling. And unfortunately, the majority of people have disconnected from their feelings. They don't really know how they feel about anything. And all this Aries energy is going to burn away what we don't need anymore. And it's going to light up passion. It's going to burn away landscapes that are no longer valid for you, and whether that's relationships or jobs or anything, so that you can rise. And February is massive for this. It is absolutely massive. As I say, because we've got astrological alignments we've never had before in human history, ever. We've got things starting at all these big, heavy planets that have been squeezing us in so many ways, squeezing our energy to address what we've hidden and what our wounds are. And between February and April, very, very transformative. But ultimately, it is going to mirror everything. What you put out into the world is going to be mirrored so fast back to you that you either hop on that bandwagon of, okay, I own that. Let me take a pause. Let me find out my place in that. Again, we return to self-mastery. It's not about the other person. It's not about the job. It's not about blaming anybody for anything. This is about now tuning in and aligning and owning every bit of it. And when Mars and Venus get together in March, that's going to be all about relationships. So February is going to be about self-identity, about personal growth. And this is not instant 24-hour fixes, but it's about confronting what your limitations are and putting them out there and saying, no, I own all these different parts of myself, but I want to bring them all now. I want to bring my shadow. I want to bring all parts of me, because now we're operating from wholeness. And that's when we can create a world that we want to live in, where there's authenticity and people are operating from, let's collaborate because I'm great at that, but I know you're great at that. And I'm sure, what you're doing is going to tap into that hugely.
Oh, it's huge. It's weird, isn't it? Because you went back to sort of, and I'm not going to, criticize time planning and time, because, I'm probably not the best time planner. And I think, I'd like to learn a lot more from people, but I do have huge intuitive powers, and I pick up the phone to the right person at the right time. It's like when I suddenly thought, oh, I need to have this conversation with Nikki. And I thought, if I phone her this morning and she picks up the phone, we're supposed to do this conversation. And it happened, didn't it? Yeah. It was exciting.
Yeah.
What I'd love to do.
And that's synchronicity.
Yeah.
It's so lovely when synchronicities come together. But that is the flow of life. That is what the universe is offering us. It's we've got these mental blocks of control and no, this is what should happen, and we need to let that go now. We really do.
Making sense of this for everyday life, what can people actually do? How can they tap into, notice patterns and the work that you do as well? Because we talked about the astrology, now about your work and how you help people and that spiritual path.
Yeah, so I have a few strands to my work. I started and trained initially as a psychic medium, bizarrely, but that found me because my psychic senses exploded after a fatal accident. And so I went to the College of Psychic Studies to manage what was happening because I didn't understand it. And it was slightly scary because I was beginning to sense other car crashes on the road and that sort of thing. Yeah, I trained as a psychic medium. And that work really found me. I always say that this work finds me because I'm very open to how I want it to evolve, that I can impact whoever needs what I do or resonates with what I do, because there are millions of tarot readers, millions of psychic mediums, but, everybody's drawn to somebody different. And so I started with that. But on an everyday basis, I would say everything is about pausing and connection. So if you have never engaged with anything that is linked with pausing, meditation, connection, becoming more aware of how you operate in the world, becoming more aware of the language that you use, that is really what I teach. It's self-awareness. My tarot readings are completely channeled, so they're multi-layered. Really, I go way beyond the book because I channel mediumship. So your granny might come through with a message, or there might be something else that will come up that I will notice, but the energy of the cards brings me that guidance. So I am completely tuned out of my everyday life when I work. And I'm now beginning this year to teach people how to do that, because everybody's psychic. Yeah. Everybody can open and really trust, because this is about confidence. It's about trust. It's not woo-woo tarot stuff. This is really more spiritual coaching in a way. Yeah. And people charge thousands for spiritual, or any form of coaching. But actually, it's not rocket science. You have everything you need. So my tarot readings, people normally come to because they want clarity on something. And I always say, you just want to be reminded of what you already know. Yeah. But there is often guidance of energy. So the forecast reading will give an energy of each month. And I use multiple cards for that. And we always get a beautiful story that each card then confirms. So that's always really exciting. The more mentoring is the soul plan. And that's where we do the deep dive. Because the soul plan is based on the sound of the letters of your birth name, with the understanding that each letter has an energy. When you put that together, there is an energetic footprint. And in short, we look at the challenges that you have chosen to take on in this lifetime, your talents that you give yourself, and the goals, which are the environments that you create to activate your challenges and talents. Those readings they come with a chart, and we do a recording for 75 minutes. But people who leave them feel, and the feedback I get is, now I get it. I get myself. because everything is explained in that. What I can see and the evidence that I can bring totally resonates with somebody's childhood, or I'll get an age where there was a trauma that they'd probably buried and even forgotten. And I'll say, what happened when you were 6? And they'll go, oh. And it could be something at school, but there's your childhood wound. And if we understand that the bigger picture of this is the world is moving from wounded child, which everybody is, we all have a core wound, into conscious adult.
What do you mean by a
That's
core
not going to
wound?
happen overnight.
What do you mean by a core wound?
We have a wound that we come in with. It might be lack. It might be confidence. It might be so you will manifest situations that cause you to grow, not as children necessarily, but yes, as children, because children have their journey too. Just because they're 5 years old and they haven't lived on this earth for only 5 years, there are a lot of children who are very, very old souls.
Yes.
If you've listened to the telepathy tapes, we're talking about nonverbal autistic children who are way into the multidimensional world. The wisdom that they're bringing through and helping us evolve, is incredible.
Can I just go back to that? Because I think it's really important, because I think that we're in this cycle of understanding children and dyslexia and all the problems that are there. But actually, I think we have to remember there's a reason for all of this. They're taking us somewhere else, and often children who are on the spectrum, or whatever, are teaching us such incredible stuff. In my opinion,
they're utterly teachers. My children have taught me more about myself than I could ever have learnt without them, for sure. And people who don't have children will learn in different ways. So we all learn. But we also know that the only way we learn is when something hurts or doesn't go our way, because that way we've got to refocus. Okay, that doesn't work. Maybe we try and we try and we try and we try again to make it work. Eventually we get exhausted, which is really what's happened to the collective in the age of Pisces. Everybody's utterly exhausted. And so then we restore, we take a step back. But if we can own everything, and some of that is really ghastly, awful, horrendous stuff.
it's very empowering, though, if you lean into it and you go, look, because if you own it, you can do something about it. If you think someone else does it, then you are not in control over it. But actually, I think it's very empowering.
Absolutely. And it's the awareness and the noticing that you bring to that situation that is going to level the playing field as to how deeply you heal it. And that's the truth. And, when people are ready to do the deep dive in my soul alignment program, I know that they're really ready, and it is utterly transformational. Not necessarily because of what I do or what I'm offering them, is because they are ready to absolutely change something. Or it might be a behavioral pattern, it might be, and some of the people I get have had constant trauma in their life, and they're done with it. They're fed up with it. And suddenly they wake up one day and think, do you know what? There's a pattern to this, which brings us full circle to astrology, of course. And that those influences have said, no, these planets and stars, they want us to grow. They're living beings as we are. Nature, everything in nature is a living sentient being that is urging us and guiding us towards growth and potential and all that wonderful opportunity that is limitless, really. We're going to see some insane stuff happening. I'm so excited. In the next year, there is literally going to be some insane stuff happening.
I think it's exciting. I think there is a huge amount of shift going on. I mean, I can feel it. I certainly feel it within myself. I mean, there's been a huge shift, but also when you take time just to listen, it's like meditation. So if you actually go out in nature and walk and just are in that moment, that present moment, you are actually in meditation, aren't you? So it's like you don't have to do all these. People get scared about the fact that they've got to do these practices and they've got to do this. And actually, just walking, I think it's the guy, is it James Nestor, who talks about the breathing, is humming. Humming brings a sound into your body, which calms the body so there's so much stuff coming through. And actually, it can be quite fun and you could be quite ridiculous with it as well. But it's that creativity as well coming out.
Yeah, it is. And often I will sink my whole body and my head down into the bath and then I'll hum. I would invite anybody who's has a bath in the next 48 hours, sink yourself under and don't block your ears or anything, hold your nose and start humming. And with your mind, take that hum to wherever it needs to go in the body. It actually knows where it needs to go. But if you invite and say, right, I would like this sound, I invite this sound to loosen or let go and absorb any negative energy that's holding me and start humming. It's really fantastic. But that's frequency. That is sonic frequency. That's how whales and dolphins communicate. Sonic energy in the water. Aquarius is the water bearer. Water is going to be huge. Look at all the rain we're having. The water bearer, the age of Aquarius, it's bringing in the water. Water is emotions. Everything is connected. Everything.
So you obviously do readings and you do your cards and everything else. So what can people do? We've talked a little bit on that. What can people do on a daily basis to really tap into what's happening at the moment?
So one of the things that I think is to pause that really helps is find something you do every day, like a trigger, like pouring yourself a cup of tea or, brushing your teeth. And use that in the everyday as a trigger for pause. So some people stand on their left foot, so they're more conscious when they brush their teeth. You might put your hand on your belly before you pick up that cup of tea, put the hand beneath the belly button and take your breath down to beneath your belly button. Slower practices, if you want to practice, I like Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, all those ancient grounding energetic practices. Take your shoes off. Please, everybody, take your shoes off and walk on the earth. A plug is nothing without its earth. Imagine yourself as a plug. What happens if you don't earth it? You plug it into the wall, it sparks for 5 minutes, loads of energy, and then nothing. But with earth, constant energy, just see that visual in your mind. So when you are putting your bare feet or you're touching earth, it's full of ions and we are the opposite ion. We need to connect with earth.
Yeah.
We absolutely do. And without grounding, you are no use to anybody. If I didn't ground every day, most of my work happens in the ether. If I didn't consciously eat rooted vegetables that have earth on them, the green and the taking the shoes off and going and connecting in nature, whether it's to the beach or whether it's touching moss on a tree, you will never thrive without connecting to nature. You can eat whatever you want. You can create whatever website and do whatever you want. Unless you connect to nature, forget it. It's not going to happen. So that would definitely be one of the things. And I suppose that's physically. Mentally, it's remembering to play, because that's when we tap into the lightness. Go back to your childhood, play, dance, do whatever moves your body, but what feeds you, what makes your heart absolutely sing. Or be around children, their lightness and their innocence. As adults, we need that. We have that within us, but for most people, it's utterly shut down. So what is it that makes you play and be silly and remain light? Because in all of this, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to do what I do. You don't need to understand everything.
No.
If you're drawn to something and you want to explore it, but I would say stay curious.
Love that
Because
word.
I'm a big believer.
It almost comes off every podcast, that word. That always comes up. So it's obviously something that I love it. I'm so curious. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I will always be fascinated in human behavior. I will always wonder why. And I suppose one of the mantras I have is, I don't know who I'm becoming, but I know I'm not who I was.
I love that.
And I love that because that for me is all about transition. And when I notice I don't know who I'm becoming, because we have to get now absolutely secure and safe with total uncertainty, because our future is absolutely uncertain. We have no choice but to go into these new beginnings, but we have no idea where they're going to take us. And that is the magic of these cycles. I know a lot more people are sort of repeating, this too shall pass. And I think that's another one that's really important.
Yeah.
Always say, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Whether it's brilliant or whether it's absolutely shitty, it will pass because it's energy in motion.
Yeah.
And we are travelers until we return to the light. We're on that journey together.
So we're on this is the question, wasn't it? The power of three, the three things that you were going to leave our listeners with. Sorry, I didn't mean to introduce that, but you've done 1 and 2. What was your third?
Have some sort of mantra that brings you back to yourself, or an action that takes you back to yourself, and own what you love. Search now, be curious about the new cycle that you might be coming into now, because it will change. What you were is not what you're going to become and who you are now. Every day we change, but center and ground yourself. My rituals and my routine are always first thing in the morning. I do have my phone by my bed because I play frequency music and I have my own prayers and mantras that I say every morning before I get out of bed. So when you get out of bed, put your feet on the ground and say thank you.
I think we have to remember that we're living where we're living, and we can't always change everything because we're supposed to go through what we're supposed to go through. And whether it's mobile phones, whether it's AI, saying we should never have it. It is what it is. It's here. It's happening. It's evolving. The world is happening to teach us things to move on. It is a journey. People hate that.
And it's a mirror.
It's a mirror.
It's going to be a mirror for us all. It will mirror back to us all. And we have an internal internet that we're totally in charge of, that we are all power over, is our own internet. What is that? And that way you trust, you feel safe, you have nothing to fear. If you are here, you have something to be grateful for. And I feel exploration is absolutely key here into yourself. So if there's anything that I can help in any way, it's to understand that this is not a random universe. We have sacred geometry. Every single living thing has a geometry and a pattern to it. And we're the same. So what are your patterns? Look at those. Be honest about it. Integrate your shadow. Face that. A lot of that is coming up now in my tarot readings for people. And I always, at the moment, I'm getting an age where the trauma happened. So I give a little exercise where, people can reconnect with that inner child and reconnect with the inner child. Play. So play, trust, follow your gut.
I love it. I love it. So before we go, I'd love our listeners to know where they can find you, where you are, and what you do. And one of the things I absolutely love about you is, I've watched you change a lot since we first met, and the way you've evolved, and also, where you come from. It's a very, very beautiful space. So it's been so lovely, this conversation. But where can everyone find you?
Thank you. So I have a website, which is just simple, nikkileader.com. I have a WhatsApp group called the Spirit Hub, where it's more of a broadcast thing. It's not a big thing, but you can contact me and go on that totally for free. And without the need to scroll, you get astrology updates. Very simple, very clear for each month. And the website and my Instagram, which is Nikki Leader. And I'm about to start a YouTube channel, which is in the making. But yeah, my website is my little shop window, and I am very open. There is never a strange or silly question. And I would love to hear from anybody. And I love to collaborate with other people.
So hopefully you're going to be part, because I'm launching this ENL Collectives, which is all about the right people together in the energetic space, and it's sort of the main founders of it. So hopefully we'll be doing some more work together anyway, but we'll put all your details in the show notes below. Nikki, thank you so much. I just love it. I want to talk to you for hours, but we're going to have to stop. But I will speak to you very soon. Thank you.